Have you ever read a book that completely changed your life? I mean, a book that didn't just entertain you, but shifted your perspective, opened up a new world, and made you feel more connected to humanity? Now, imagine if one person, with one simple idea, could spark a movement that brought that feeling to an entire nation. This is the incredible true story of a teacher who did just that. It's a story about the power of books, the courage of one individual, and how a small act can create ripples of change that touch millions. Stick around, because you're about to be inspired. It all started in a small, unassuming classroom, the kind you've probably seen 100 times. The walls were decorated with student art. The air smelled of chalk dust and old paper. And in the middle of it all was Sarah, a high school English teacher with a fire in her eyes. Sarah loved literature, truly loved it, but she was heartbroken. She saw her students, bright and full of potential, glued to their phones, their attention spans shrinking, their connection to the written word fading away. They saw reading as a chore, a box to tick for a grade, not a gateway to adventure and empathy. She tried everything. She assigned exciting novels. She acted out scenes in class. She even created social media pages for literary characters. Some students engaged, but for many, the wall was just too high. They were living in a world of instant gratification, and the slow, immersive process of reading a book just couldn't compete. One afternoon, after a particularly challenging class where half the students admitted they hadn't read the assigned chapter, Sarah sat at her desk, feeling defeated. She looked at the bookshelf in her classroom, filled with classics and modern marvels, and wondered, how could she make them see? How could she share the magic she felt every time she opened a book? That evening, staring out her window, a simple, almost radical idea popped into her head. What if the problem wasn't the books themselves, but the pressure surrounding them? The deadlines, the essays, the tests. What if she could strip all that away? What if she could make reading a shared, communal experience, free of any academic obligation? What if she just left a book somewhere for a stranger to find? Not as an assignment, but as a gift, a surprise discovery waiting to happen. The next morning, with a mix of nervousness and excitement, Sarah took a worn paperback copy of one of her favorite novels from her own collection. Inside the front cover, she wrote a short, simple note. It said something like, "Hello, stranger. I loved this book, and I wanted to share it with you. Read it, enjoy it, and when you're done, please leave it for someone else to find. Let's share a story." She then sealed the book in a clear plastic bag to protect it from the weather, walked to a nearby park, and placed it on a bench, right where someone would be sure to see it. As she walked away, her heart was pounding. Would anyone pick it up? Would they think it was strange? Or just maybe, would the magic work? She had no idea that this small act of literary rebellion was the first step in a journey that would capture the heart of a nation. For a few days, nothing happened. Sarah checked the park bench every day on her way home from school. The book was gone, but she had no way of knowing its fate. She started to think it was a silly idea, a failed experiment. But then, about a week later, one of her colleagues came into the staff room, buzzing with excitement. He was holding up his phone, showing everyone a post on a local community social media page. Someone had found a book on a bus, with a handwritten note inside. The person who found it was thrilled, describing it as a moment of unexpected joy in their busy day. They promised to read it and pass it on. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. It wasn't her book, but it was her idea. Someone else had been inspired. This was the spark. Sarah realized her idea had legs. She created a simple social media page, calling it The Reading Chain. She shared her original story and posted a picture of the note she'd written. She invited others to do the same. Take a book you love, write a note, and leave it in a public place for a stranger. She suggested people use a specific hashtag so they could track the book's journeys. At first, it was just her friends, family, and a few curious locals. A book left in a coffee shop in her town, another on a train seat, a children's book left in a playground. Each discovery was shared online, a growing collection of heartwarming stories. The media loves a feel-good story, and it wasn't long before a local news station picked up on it. They ran a short segment on The Reading Chain, featuring an interview with an anonymous Sarah. She wanted the focus to be on the movement, not on her. That's when things exploded. The story went from local to regional, then national. The hashtag started trending. Suddenly, Pictures were flooding in from all over the country. Books on park benches in major cities, on hiking trails in national parks, in airport lounges, in hospital waiting rooms. Each book was a little package of hope, a connection between strangers. The stories that emerged were incredible. There was the stressed-out university student who found a book on philosophy just before a big exam, which helped him calm down and refocus. There was the elderly man living alone who found a mystery novel on his doorstep, telling reporters it was the first gift he'd received in years and it made him feel less invisible. A young mother found a parenting book in a doctor's office waiting room, with a note of encouragement from another mom that brought her to tears. The movement transcended age, location, and background. It was beautifully simple and deeply human. It wasn't about what you read, but the act of sharing itself. People were leaving everything from classic literature and poetry to thrillers, sci-fi, and even cookbooks. The notes inside became more personal, too. People shared why the book meant so much to them, what they were going through when they read it, and their hopes for the next reader. The inside covers of these books became a scrapbook of human connection. What Sarah had tapped into was a universal longing for connection in an increasingly disconnected world. In an age of digital chatter, here was something tangible, something real, an anonymous act of kindness. The magic wasn't just in the stories on the pages, but in the story of the book itself, its journey from one pair of hands to another. It reminded people that, despite our differences, we all share common experiences: love, loss, joy, and the simple pleasure of a good story. Of course, Sarah was still teaching. Her students, who were initially unaware of her role in all this, were now buzzing about the reading chain. They were finding the books, leaving their own, and tracking the hashtags. They saw reading not as a homework assignment, but as a cool, nationwide treasure hunt. The change in her classroom was profound. Students were eagerly discussing the books they'd found, recommending titles to each other, and for the first time, they were asking her for book suggestions not for extra credit, but because they genuinely wanted to read. Sarah had finally found the key. She hadn't forced them to love reading. She had created an environment where they could discover that love for themselves. Eventually, Sarah decided to reveal herself as the founder, not for fame, but to give the movement a face and to use the platform to do even more good. She was interviewed on national television, wrote a book about her experience, and started a foundation that worked to get books into underserved communities. Inspired by the spirit of the reading chain, her message was simple: one book can change a life, and one person can change the world. She proved that you don't need a grand plan or a lot of resources to make a difference. All you need is a good idea, a little bit of courage, and a belief in the kindness of strangers. Sarah's story is a powerful reminder for all of us. It shows that the most profound changes often start with the smallest actions. That little voice inside you that says, "What if?" It's worth listening to. What she started on that quiet afternoon in her classroom wasn't just about reading. It was about community. It was about empathy. It was about creating unexpected moments of joy and connection in a world that desperately needs them. It reminds us that every single one of us has the power to put a little bit of good into the world, to be the start of our own chain reaction of positivity. So the next time you finish a book you love, think about Sarah. Maybe don't just put it back on the shelf. Maybe write a little note. Leave it on a bus seat or a coffee shop table. You never know whose life you might touch. You never know what journey that book might go on, and you might just become part of a story that's bigger than all of us. What do you think about this story? Has a book ever found you in an unexpected way? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories. And if this video inspired you, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Thanks for watching, and keep sharing those stories.